Hello and welcome to my Evocati test flight impressions. I've played the recent build 3.24.2 extensively over the weekend and have some of my experiences and thoughts to share with you. The MFDs look really clean, and we also have the HMDs back, also known as MFD casts now. Now each mode, be that scan, nav or SCM mode, has their own MFD presets, so whenever you change them around they stick to each mode. So if I had a scan MFD up and a target MFD up on a ship with two MFDs in the scan mode, that will always be active in the scan mode, and it changes back to other presets as I go through the modes. Alongside the new MFDs came a new power system, which is now point-based, like in games such as Faster Than Light or more recently Starfield, that you can distribute to your different systems. There are already quite a few of these new systems in, but obviously we still have some missing until engineering is a thing. Now this new system is significantly more straightforward and immediately apparent what you can and cannot power. And there's only one slight problem right now. If you are in a single seat ship or you are soloing a ship, changing distributed power on the fly is significantly more difficult. Or if that doesn't bother you, it's definitely much slower than the current power system. Now I'm pretty sure we will get keybinds to actually control the actual contents of the MFDs. As it is right now, the only keybinds related to the MFDs are navigational ones, so we can move in between different MFDs on our ships and zoom in / focus on different MFDs. In this patch, the ratio between boost and SCM has been reduced by up to about 30%. This affected fighters the most. Multi-crew ships seemingly have been adjusted the least, which means the speed gaps have been narrowed between multi-crew ships and fighters. I think this is a step in the right direction to make multi-crew ships more viable. Whether this was enough remains to be seen, but one of the major problems of multi-crew ships as it is right now is the inability to actually be a threat to fighters. And with ships like the Redeemer that go above 200 SCM now and above 300 comfortably in boost, means that due to the reduced boost speeds for the fighters, which the Redeemer is very close to put one example, you are posing a much more direct threat, and you are less of a, rock sitting out in space that can just get aimed down without having any authority on the fight. I was able to test the Hammerhead and the Redeemer. Both of these have received overall buffs to their flight profile, meaning they are more nimble, have slightly more acceleration, and are faster now. The Redeemer now feels very similar to a heavy fighter in terms of its jork profile, and it almost has equal pitch, yaw and roll rates as some of the heavy fighters, as we know, the F8, Vanguard, and so on and so forth. Even the Hammerhead is now slightly faster and feels a lot more snappy. I was testing around Korea, trying to fly in between the rings, and that was a breeze. There was, at the SCM speeds, there's not much drift anymore. You can really get that nose around and change your vector much more easily with the Hammerhead. So, component balance still seems a ways off from being balanced. The component rebalance for some ships like the Redeemer and the dedicated dropships seems to have been very rushed, as we all know, due to the indication by Thorsten. I'm pretty sure it was his account. I think he's servile. A lot of the, all of the dropships and the Redeemer have now 4 size 2 shields for the dropships, and the Redeemer has 6. It is very power hungry in the new power system, meaning on these ships you will rarely really be able to power them all the way up, which wouldn't be much of a problem if we could exchange weapons for ballistics, but ballistics are still fairly weak, although there is a caveat that I will get back to later with you. Now, on the Redeemer specifically with 6 size 2 shields, you basically, in order to actually go full power to shields, you become just a shield. You will basically have to turn off your weapons, almost turn off your thrusters, and the coolers will also not be fully powered, while still maintaining your radar. And we do not have life support systems yet, they don't use power, so it will get worse unless there's an adjustment made to size 2 shields, or at the very least power plants like the size 3 power plant the Redeemer runs. Now this is not the reality for more traditional ships that tend to have 1 or 2 shields. Ships as such really don't have trouble powering their components at all. So a lot of the fighters, especially the ones with 1 shield, can basically fully power all their combat systems and their coolers. So remains to be seen how they will balance it. I hope we move away from that where fighters barely have to power manage. I would at least hope there's some fine-tuning involved and you don't just go full power to everything. Weapon velocity overall seems to be reduced. Now this is just a feeling. I don't really have any hard data on it, but overall the lead pip is a bit further away from the ships than it usually is. However, as I mentioned earlier, there's a caveat now to ballistic weapons. We do have hull penetration now. So if you have a hefty ballistic gun like a Harbinger with a Deadbolt 5, as I've come to feel it, it can shut you down now. As it happened to me in a Pirate Swarm match, I got shut down by a Harbinger in my Redeemer. I've also had another scenario where the Gladii and Buccaneers, over time, they whittled my shields down, kept hitting me, and at some point my shields were non-functional, and then I'm all 6 shields. Now one thing balance-wise that is a bit odd, weapons don't need a lot of power, but even though they don't need a lot of power, ships like the Hammerhead have barely any ammunition. And even the Redeemer, it's like not a lot, considering you're firing size 4 and size 3 weapons now. Very slim on the capacitors. I couldn't test any other ships, but I've heard the F7 has upwards of 30 shots with cannons. So seems to be a bit off still capacitor wise, because the capacitors now are centralized again. So you don't have individual capacitors for turrets anymore, meaning it's all shared. So I guess they need to figure out how much these bigger ships now need, especially a Hammerhead. I can see how they didn't want to go overboard, because 24 size 4 weapons, it can be easy to underestimate how much capacitor charge these need. But yeah, there's definitely some balance problems here. And recharge rate as well. So with the Hammerhead it takes a long while for the 21, 24 shots to even recharge. And that is with full power to everything. Despite the balance problems, overall I think this patch is shaping up to be a rather good one for the game. The new power system will make adjustments for balancing much easier, and it's a much more approachable system by the new player that doesn't have knowledge of all these websites like Urcool, SC Ship Viewer and Tanksor. And some balance changes are also good. As I said, the increase in speed for at least the multi-crew ships that I've tested is super positive. The Redeemer is awesome. I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to exaggerate, it really moves like a heavy fighter right now. This is awesome. Now speed-wise it also is basically a heavy fighter. And hull penetration already being in is super interesting. I really hope they tweak some stuff with the ballistics, so especially the repeater variant, so the Gatlings like Revenants, Mantis, and sawbucks, or buzzsaw, you know, the bearing variants, have a bit more oomph, because it seems like they don't like to turn off components all that well. I've laid into fighters, even in Pirate Swarm, where ships have reduced health. I think I managed to turn the shields off of one Gladius once. And even that is just speculation, but it seemed like it was, because the damage I dished out was suddenly much higher, as if the shields were permanently off. Yeah. I'm pretty sure the hull penetration might shake up the game drastically, because as far as I know, we can already repair components with the salvage tools that have a repair mode. So that will be interesting for the multi-crew ships, because they can, you know, heal themselves on the fly by opening it up. So long, of course, as the components are physicalized. Without physicalized components, it's safe to say you also won't have to deal with that to begin with. And all of that remains to be seen, of course. I really hope this goes to a public patch within the next 2 weeks, or rather earlier even, to really get to see how all this performs in PvP. Because PvP in Evocati is consensual. I would get in trouble if I started shooting up everyone I see. Can't do that. As far as that goes though, I thank you for watching. As with all my videos, hop on the Discord, let's have a discussion. And have a nice day.